The agencies that exist just now won't exist in 3 to 5 years. They have to adapt. So agencies will still exist, but not in the form that they currently are.
I think we're quite unique in how we are approaching this.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like we're like a startup again. And I want to touch on, like, we talk about us being a boutique agency. We're a family at the core run business, but we're a boutique agency, but we service the world's biggest corporate businesses. And I think that gives us the advantage to them also, because they know that we can constantly change and adapt. What we're replacing right now is anything that's repetitive, and we're analysing deeply in our business, like, what are we doing every day? And we're looking at everyone, what are you doing every day? How much of that is repetitive? And let's replace it with AI, so that I want to spend more time doing is sitting with the team, coming up with ideas and innovation, and then feed that idea and innovation into the system. Yeah. So the system then looks after the repetitive things, and then we wake up the next day and all that work is done, and we're back in the office talking about the next idea. Welcome, Gillian, to episode 175. This is a little bit different, this episode, and it's talking, obviously we're a creative agency, and it's talking about the future of creative, and obviously with the advent of AI and how integrated we are in the company with AI. But the question then for you is, well, there's headlines going around. I think we see it all the time. There's a lot of headlines about 3 to 5 years and how things are changing. And we know how things have changed dramatically, even in the last year or two, and then even 3 months or 3 weeks. So, but one of the headlines I've seen going around is that most creative agencies won't exist in 5 years. Do you believe that, or do you think it's just a good headline?
I've got a double response. Okay. I do agree with it. But the reason why I agree with it is that the agencies that exist just now won't exist in 3 to 5 years. They have to adapt. So agencies will still exist, but not in the form that they currently are. The way that an agency operates right now will not be the way that an agency will operate in 12 months, never mind 36 or 60.
And why do you think that?
Because of the speed of technology, the speed and rapid change of efficiency with the adoption of AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the ones that will vanish are the ones that protect the old model. I think the ones that think, well, everything's fine and we'll just keep going and at some point we'll change. I think that's the agencies that will vanish, the ones that protect the old model.
Yeah.
I think that's really important we've always been like, not just for AI, we've always had that type of approach of curiosity of technology all through the years in our business of how do we adopt new technology. So for me, this is just another adoption. The main difference that you talked about there is the speed of that adoption. So I've always had that curiosity of technology, but now it's just on super speed. So I just think we all have to change in the creative world, and it's how you adapt that, but it's how you can evolve your agency, adapt that at the speed of the technology and how things have changed. So the ones that 100%. Survive will kill themselves first. We've always said we're looking at ways to strangely put ourselves out of business. So I think the ones that are surviving will constantly think, what's about to change and how's it going to impact my business? And then the ones that will vanish will the ones that will continually try and protect that old model.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's a headline, but I think there's truth in that headline. Yeah. I genuinely think, and I actually think 3 to 5 years is quite a long time.
Way too far. I mean, that's why I say 12 months.
Yeah, 12 months for me is if you don't evolve in the next 12 months, you're going to die.
You're going to really struggle.
And a creative agency sense of things. And based on that, then we just started to touch on it. Are we at risk? And are we at risk at 29 Studios? And what would put us on the wrong side of that? You know?
Well, what would put us on the wrong side of that is mindset. If we didn't have the right mindset to really focus on how do we stay relevant. But this isn't just because of AI coming into the market and transforming the creative industries. Even since 2020, since when the pandemic hit, we have been consistently and continually innovating. We then started to really expand the business really define the business as a design plus technology company. That's been since 2020. That's been 6 years that we have really focused, not just for ourselves as an organisation, but how do we service the customer? How do we stay relevant? How do we make sure that we can bring the most modern methods of productivity to our customers at speed, at price, with high quality? And whatever technology it is that enables us to do that, then we bring that to market.
And there's one thing I think if that would put us on the wrong side of that line is complacency. And I think it's something that's never been levelled at us. I think, as I said, we constantly look for new ways to do things, you know, for quality, speed and price for our customers. And with AI now, I think that's just evolving so fast that I think it excites both of us. So I think it's also that natural ability of like, we're excited about this. And I think that defines who we are in 29 Studios. And it will always make us not be in the wrong side of the line. As we celebrated a few months ago, 17 years in business. But it's been 17 years of constant evolvement. This is just a speed change, but it's never going to catch us out because we're always that curiosity-led as a business, always wanting to learn. And I think that's important, that anyone in the creative industries, you always need to be learning. And I can speak as a creative that the way to learn now is completely different to the way we would learn before.
So fast.
And I think it just genuinely excites us. And I think that's what filters through to the rest of the business is this is exciting. Obviously, everyone can talk about the risks of AI, but if we just focus on how it can impact the creative agency, I think that's a genuine excitement that we filter through the business. So I think we'll never be in the wrong side of it, because we're just always trying to push ourselves ahead. And we've done it, as you said, since the day we started business. So how we've touched on it. How is 29 Studios evolving? And what you touched on there was combining I think service and systems. You know, obviously we're a service-based company, and we've talked privately about how we turn that into a service and system. And that combines with the design plus technology side of our business. So how would you talk to that about how we are a service-based company, but we're trying now, because of AI, to build in systems that benefits our customers?
I think that there's a couple of points in there. I think if you become, we talked about this in an podcast earlier, with AI, you can be a consumer of AI, you can be a creator of AI, and you can be a creator with AI. So when you think of a developer with AI, so the main layer is those that develop the LMs. Then you've got the creators with AI, which we are. We're creators with AI. And then there's consumers of AI. We're straddling between the creators with AI and the developers with AI. So we're taking it into a integrated layer inside the company. We're not just consumers of AI, sitting, logging on, using chat, and then hoping for a result. We've went really deep, and we have for 3 years now. And what we're looking at, and it's proving to be a success with all the pilots we've done, and we've done many, many pilots on how do we add efficiency into that workflow. Best example is when we adopted the render engine and we were rendering 3D animation on the blockchain back in 2021, 22, maybe even earlier than that.
I think it was before
2019.
Yeah.
And we got 98% efficiency in our render process by just changing a little bit of the process, changing that little piece. So fast forward to 2023, when AI then started to become a tool that you could bring into your workplace, we then jumped on that and have adopted workflow efficiency.
That's 3 years now we've been using AI.
Yeah.
So as you say, we're not dabbling in it or just coming across it. We've been quite deep in it for 3 years. And I've noticed the traditional tools that we would use as a design agency, as a creative agency, and how that's changed. And it's, in one way, we talk about, we've watched the video of the big red button, and everyone thinks that AI nowadays is you just press a red button and everything happens. It's still a complex system of different technologies that we're stringing together to get that efficiency. As you said, we've always looked for ways to be efficient for our customers, to provide efficiency and innovation for our customers. So I see this as the next challenge of how we take a multitude of different tools, of AI tools, and bring them together to create efficiency and volume and quality for our customers. And I think we're getting that now, and we've done some examples for that over the last few months, and we travelled to America to showcase that. And I think that's where I talk about now the content system we're building. We're not just building content, we're building a content system that enables our clients to be more efficient and more innovative at speed. So we're trying to use the speed of AI and deliver that to our customers. And what our customers want is that speed, that personalization, and that volume.
But there's another key element that I can add into this, and this is what a lot of agencies are doing. A lot of agencies are doing it chaotically because they don't know how to adopt AI into their workflow. They're doing it with no structure. They're doing it invisibly. They're not being transparent. They're not sharing that knowledge with their customers. They don't have governance in place. Yeah. What we have done is we've created a complete layer of governance. How do we protect our data? How do we protect our customers' data? Everything we have is enterprise grade. We have partners who are enterprise grade, best in the market, that can come with us and help us make sure that everything that we do, that we are completely ring fencing, our own brand and every brand that we work with. We never put any content anywhere that would put a customer or a human being at risk.
Yeah, and I think that's important because obviously the customers we work with are large organisations. We work in the B2B world. So although from 2023 there was that element of just discovery and figuring things out, but for the last year and a half or so, we've been deliberately focused on about, as you say, the governance, where our content is stored, how we store it.
Is it zero retained? Is it trained on? Absolutely not.
Yeah. So all of that is. So I'll talk about it from a creative perspective, and you're obviously more organised from that side, and it's a good combination to have in our business and for the benefit of our customers. So I think. So it kind of ties into the last couple of questions of why we won't be in the wrong side of this, because we're 3 years in, and that 3 years, although it seems 3 years is a long time, I think the next 3 months will be the speed of that. Like the 3 years it's taken us to get here, there's another 3 months that's just constant change. So I think that's where we're super positioned now to look at how we become, as a company, more efficient and deliver that efficiency to our customers. And as I said, about creating content as a system rather than just separate pieces of content for the customers. So the human perspective of all of this, because obviously there's a lot of chat about AI and how it's going to replace and take jobs and things like that. And I know that the usual line that comes back is AI won't replace your job, it will replace the people who know how to use AI. So that's a line that goes around, and it's true.
Yeah.
Obviously there's an element of truth in that. And I think also, like, obviously through history, jobs have been replaced with technology. We've touched on it a few times already, but the difference now is speed. And, back in the day, I started with a drawing board and then went on to use a computer, but it was a long, slow process. You had time to learn, you had time to develop, you had time to adjust your mental state of, I'm now going from a drawing board to use a computer. I now need to work this out and rewire my brain. I've found over the last year, it's getting more difficult, not difficult, but challenging to constantly keep on top of the developments of AI. So you always have to pick where you're going and be defined on that. And
but also have the flexibility
of the pivot.
To be able to pivot in between technologies, because even when you keep going.
Yeah, no, the point I'm meaning is that's why the system for me counts, and you're not just creating content, because you could get easily opportunity paralysis with AI and you go off in different tangents. You need to be aware of all the tools that's coming out. But if you've built this system internally, that we're looking at this system of where things fit.
And it's already working, we're seeing results from it.
But we're looking at it's hard to describe without visually showing it, but we're looking at a linear type system of what we do and how we replace elements of what we do with AI. But it's always then substituted with a newest model or a different model. So we're always
not AI specific. It's not one specific LLM we use. We have to keep a very open mind. It's more about the capabilities. And the one thing that I have found in probably the last 12 months is that the relationship that the human has with each AI is very different.
Well, that's actually my next question.
It's very different.
It's like my next question is, why is human perspective becoming a premium product? And that for us is super important in the industry, in the creative industry that we're in, that you always remember there's the premium product will be the human, because we're getting the AI to do like I remember back, just a little story. I remember when I first started and I was learning animation, and I remember watching all the Pixar stuff and Disney stuff, and people, the human would then draw the first frame and the last frame, and it's common knowledge now, obviously, but back in the day, I was learning, And the thing in between was called the in-betweens. And it was just like the in-between little animation slots.
Fill in.
And that would then eventually go to a computer as far as doing the in-betweeners, the in-between shots. So you would always have the start point and the end point, and then you would get the computer. And as the computer developed, that's what the computer did. You built the start, you built the end, and the computer built the animation. Before, you had to hand draw each single frame, and they had a whole bunch of people back in the day who done those in-between shots.
When you seen Walt Disney, remember we watched that show, but Walt
they
Disney
literally
and the
sat, they
sketching.
all sat at drawing boards, and you had the chief designer doing the start frame and the chief one doing the end frame, and there was a whole team of people just doing all the in-between shots. When computers come in, they took the in-between, the computer took the in-between shots. So all you had to do was the start and the end. I see that pattern similar with AI, especially in the creative industries. You need the human to create the starting point, and at certain points along that system, you need the human to verify, or at the end of the system, definitely before it goes to the customer. So I'm answering one question about how the human will become the premium product and allow the AI to do the in-between work.
Well, the way I consider it is, we're both aligned on this. At the front end, it's contextual intelligence. The contextual intelligence is the human perspective. What is it that you're trying to achieve? So it's not just you go into the room and hit the big red button and out comes the back end. That's where you talk about AI being a big black box, where everybody in the world knows how to use ChatGPT. You send a prompt.
Don't know about everyone in the world, but yeah.
Well, everyone that uses technology will use ChatGPT in some shape or form, whether it's for your gym fitness or whether it's your recipes or whether it's in your work. But there's so many layers of ChatGPT that you cannot use it in your work. But the concept of you write a prompt and it goes, you cross your fingers and then you wait to see what the result is. It's a big black box. You can't see in it. You can't navigate it. You can't steer it. You can't direct it. What you have to be able to do is have a big glass box. And that big glass...
This is your analogy.
This is my analogy. Yeah. You need a big glass box that inside that AI system, you can steer it with contextual intelligence. The human, the insight, the knowledge, the craft, the skill, the innovation that you create as a human being in a creative agency or in any type of creative agency, an architect, an engineering firm, anywhere that you have human and intellect, that contextual part has to stay at the front and steer the AI, not just throw it in, cross your fingers and hope it comes out the back end. So all the steps that go inside that box, even when you think of building 3D animation using Cinema 4D, all the other platform packages, you have to spend hours of time learning how to manipulate that. Yeah. So it's exactly the same. But what we're not doing is we're not just chucking stuff into this big black box and hoping for the best. We're steering it so that the efficiency of it coming out the other end comes out faster and more accurately.
And we were in the US recently at one of our manufacturing companies, and I used the analogy, my version of that analogy, to fit the manufacturing world. It's like they've got this huge printing press that's got like 8 different stations, and those 8 different stations perform a different task as the label goes past, whether it's a different colour or a different embellishment. But what you always had was the person, the printer, stands at that press for 8 hours a day and monitors each station across the way so that the final roll of labels that come out is fit for purpose and can go to the customer with the highest of quality. And I compared that to what we do now with AI. So as you said, at the start of the AI revolution, there was either ChatGPT, and for me it was like Midjourney, and everyone was just amazed at the quality of images. But it was like, you know, like a roulette. Can I just throw the ball in and see where it lands? And you got an image. But then the comparison I said about the press, it's like you have to be available to approve along the way. You let the AI do the heavy work, like the press that runs it at speed and produces thousands of labels. So that's for me that comparison of we're now creating volume of content at speed. So like the press, volume of labels at speed, but we have that printer, that person, managing that press all along the way in case at any point it needs adjusted or tweaked. And if you watch a printer... And then the human judgment comes in. And if you watch a printer at a press, he's just tweaking, obviously, digital buttons now, but he's tweaking little things along the way to make that press be efficient. And that's a skill in itself. So that's where we are with our version of AI. We've built the system that allows us to tweak it along the way so that what comes out the other end is an innovative product that we asked for and wanted.
That we verify that meets the objective of what goes in at the front
But that's
end.
why I think, like, we're not, for the purposes of anyone watching this as well, is that we've not just bought into whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, or any image models or video models.
Claude, yeah.
We've got a whole range of tools at enterprise level that we're piecing together to create a system.
We're manipulating it.
And that's our unique advantage, I think, in 29 Studios, and why we're so innovative in this industry now. And I've always thought that that's our job. We've always said that as, like, we work with the most innovative global companies, and our job is to go visit them. So back to the human thing. So whether that human thing is standing on a press, as the analogy, or managing the AI workflow that we do, or physically go to the customer like we do, it's turn up, be in the room, because AI can't read the room, can't get that gut feeling, can't make people feel things. So we have to still continually be the human in the loop, whether that's watching how AI develops or take it to the customer and show the customer of how the advantages of using our content system. And that was a big conversation we had a couple of months ago in America. So,
and it's a clear differentiator. It really is. We are a boutique agency, but we are doing something at the cutting edge of the market. And even some of the meetings that I've been in of late, it's about how can 29, how can we innovate and pass that value proposition to the customer. And I've read so many articles, and I've looked across the industry that there's so many creative and agencies that are using these technologies in a very siloed way, creating some efficiencies, saving money, and not passing it back to the client. So they're kind of like black boxing it and not sharing that value to the customer. Whereas what we're trying to do is, if we can save, let's just be hypothetical, if we can save 50% with efficiency and cost.
Well, the numbers you're looking at right now is 30 to 50%.
Between 30 and 50%. But if we can save 50% and we can then split that with the customer and give the customer half of that in savings, give them it faster with better quality.
And more of it.
Bigger volumes.
Yeah, that's for us and really important over the next few months.
But we're already doing it. We're already seeing that efficiency. Yeah. This is so exciting.
Yeah, well, that's what I said a minute ago. It's like we're just genuinely excited about it, and there is a lot of negative, and I think the negative in our industry comes from people who are not embracing it.
Yeah, but then also,
like we're in our mid to late 50s, and I think we're quite unique in how we are approaching this, and it almost feels like we're like a startup again. And I want to touch on, like, we talk about us being a boutique agency. We're a family at the core run business, but we're a boutique agency, but we service the world's biggest corporate businesses. And I think that gives us the advantage to them also, because they know that we can constantly change and adapt.
And we give them absolute service.
Yeah. And I think because deep down, I think they see it, how much we care and how much passion we've got for this business, because it's our family.
And for their business, how much passion we have for their projects.
Yeah. So I think they see that innovation filtering through, and that's our job. I've said it since we started business. Our job is to innovate for them, and the latest way of doing that is AI. We're just genuinely excited about the tools that we're developing right now, and our new website that's coming soon, that will reveal a little bit more of that. So I think the headline of this obviously talk was about, we've watched a lot of things, and obviously the downside, as we touch on, is a lot of people are getting made redundant.
Yeah, and that's really sad.
And what I'm hoping is that these people can learn the tools of AI, because I think there is opportunities there. There is opportunities in the creative world and industries to develop their skills again and retrain, retool, and come back stronger, because it's not going away. Yeah,
and for anyone that's been made redundant and is in that really unfortunate position, dedicate 3 months and go as deep into AI as you can, as deep in, because you will completely retransform your job.
Yeah, I would agree. Like 3 months, like in the past, it's been like you need to take a year out or 2 years out.
Retrain, reskill.
In 3 months' time, you can learn so much,
and you will be
an asset.
Valuable.
Yeah.
You'll be able to command your salary for any company.
Because it's what we're saying. Humans, for us in this business, is super important. But they have to come with that mindset and that attitude.
Totally
and
mindset.
that discipline of, I want to learn. And we know that as we've developed our business and careers over the years, that it's the constant attitude of learning.
But then also the other thing that we were talking about this last week when we were watching one of the videos that we watch every night, and it was about the industry sectors that are going to be complete. I think it was a Tony Robbins video actually with Steve Bartlett.
I think it was a little short video. Yeah.
It was, and there was a diagram, and it was like a diagram that talked about what the professional industries and then the industrial industries and then the human-led industries like the gardeners, the construction companies, right through to the lawyers and the accountants. And when you think of professional services where you pay a top dollar to have a chartered accountant or your financial accountant, again, your legal advice and all the legals, they people have trained for years to get that qualification, and that is a real skill. One of the things that was mentioned is that these industries are going to be slaughtered. And yes, the process will be. But if a lawyer or an accountant or a professional advisor embraces this and is transparent about it with their customers, I would much rather have a lawyer who is deep in AI, because I know that that human has got human sentiment and human perspective, but put all the easy bits through AI.
Yeah, but
and have that legal, and that's where the legal industry, if it doesn't embrace it, will have a real challenge.
The exact same applies to our industry.
Yeah,
we've had a process for years of, let's just name the Adobe suite and how you would do things in Adobe Illustrator. You'd use Photoshop, they would use Premiere, we'd use all the different tools to generate a piece of artwork or a piece of film or any 3D graphics. So there was a whole process of learning across all different tools. The same applies now
to all professions.
It's just a different set of tools, as I've touched on. So it's just a different content system. It actually was a content system in the past. For me, the past, all the Adobe tools and everything else are now trying to embrace it more with adding AI into those tools. But you're still using the range of tools. It's not a silver bullet. AI is not one program you should use and it will do everything. It's not the silver bullet. You still have to learn and train. So like you're saying with the lawyers or accountants and things like that, it's the same for the graphic designer or the designer. We have to retrain and retool with these new tools. And if you do that, you'll become invaluable. So going back to anyone that's maybe been in the industry or the graphic design industry, do that 3-month thing, deep dive, contact us, and we'll put you on that little track. Come work with us. If you've got that attitude, like, I want to learn this, and you're genuinely excited about it. Because if you bring fear, it will spread. And what we're trying to create in 29 Studios is excitement with AI, is genuine excitement.
But then on the opposite side, the other industries that Tony Robbins in his massive diagram talked about was like your electricians, your plumbers, tradesmen, where you can't physically have an AI fix your plumbing if your plumbing's broke. But what the plumber can do is put AI into their workflow process. So the process of how do they get their calls, how do they find new customers, how do they manage their social media, how do they manage their phone calls, how do they do all of that? All of that can be done with AI to let the plumber. So you're not giving
advice to plumbers and
so where
lawyers.
Where the plumber has got the most amazing opportunity, because you can't replace a plumber. So the trades are going to be... No, I don't think you will. Yeah, you'll be able to do robots, but you still wouldn't be able to get that robot in and do the crawl space. You probably could, but I'm just being, at this point in time, the industries that are not going to be touched are the human industries, but you can put AI in to make it more efficient.
Right, so this episode's about creative industries, not plumbers.
I'm thinking industry-wide.
But that's what we do. But all that still applies to us as a creative company or any creative agencies. It still applies. There's things, it's what we were talking about yesterday with the team. It's like anything that you're doing that you repeat every day can be automated. We just need to find and develop the system that allows you to do it. Because what we obviously are discovering, it's not one tool, as I said. It's the combination of tools. So we're combining those tools to look at anything that we do that's repetitive, to make that automated, couldn't find the word, to make that automated. And that's what we're trying to do, because what that allows us then to do, because I need to let this finish because I know you're down to put in. From a creative point of view, it's all about generating ideas, coming up with ideas for your customers. So the more time you have to spend thinking about the idea and the creativity, then the better your business will be. Where we spend a lot of time, not us, where we creative industry spend a lot of time is doing repetitive tasks, is just constantly doing what they think is creative, but it's repetitive. So what we're replacing right now is anything that's repetitive, and we're analysing deeply in our business, like what are we doing every day? And we're looking at everyone, what are you doing every day? How much of that is repetitive? And let's replace it with AI, so that I want to spend more time doing is sitting with the team, coming up with ideas and innovation, and then feed that idea and innovation into the system. Yeah. So the system then looks after the repetitive things, and then we wake up the next day and all that work is done, and we're back in the office talking about the next idea. So that applies to any industry, as far as whether it's paperwork or anything like that, accountancy or lawyers. There's repetitive tasks. But what you're paying for then is the human touch.
So if you think of 29, what runway do you think we have? All agencies are going to be able to adopt this type of technology. Well, all industries are going to be able to do this. Where's our unique position?
Well, I think we've been on the runway for the last 3 years. We started in 2023, so we've been on this AI runway for 3 years. I genuinely think between now and the end of the year, we will literally have to take off. And we can say, yeah, we're doing that. Yeah, we're slightly airborne. But for where I want to go, we need to be cruising at 40,000 feet.
Yeah, and we are doing that with our customers.
And that's within the next 6 months, we need to take that next gigantic leap. We're building that system just now. We're embracing it. We're excited about it.
Yeah, but even when you see the early prototypes that we've already got, that we've already shipped, that we're already using with our customers, it's insane, the outputs that we're achieving. Yeah. From this.
Because I came from the time before you had to, if you wanted something filmed, you had to go film it. If you wanted something created, you had to put in hours of work.
But then there still is occasions where you are going to still need filming. So if an event's taking place and there's a keynote speaker and you want that keynote speaker on camera. I wasn't
trying to replace filming. I was meaning there's certain things you can just create now that's film-led, or it's B-roll, or it's something like that. But we're not going to replace filming again with the human element. But there's a lot of content that can be created that looks like a genuine, real piece of film. So everything's changing.
But we're just very lucky that we've already embraced this, and we're already...
Well, we're not very lucky. We put ourselves in that position.
That's true.
We put ourselves in that position.
Matter of perspective,
you get luck because you put yourself in position. And sometimes when it doesn't work, people say it's bad luck, but you're still put yourself in the position. So you need to be in the final. You need to work hard to get through to the final to then be your best. And that's where I feel like we're positioning 29 Studios for our customers, is to be the best version of ourselves for our customers.
But I also think that our customers really value our transparency. Yeah. And I think transparency is a massive thing, especially when there's new technology involved.
But transparency is about protection, and it's about protecting the customer and us, because we're developing a long-term relationship. So as we wrap this one up, I think the headline was that where will creative agencies be in 3 to 5 years? Will they die? The headline is they're all going to die unless they adopt. And we started by saying we genuinely think that's true. And just like anything that changes and evolves, you have to adopt.
But you think back to even when digital came out, when the internet came out, all the printing presses, all the newspapers, all the traditional methods of communication, that was completely slaughtered. But we still get newspapers.
Yeah, but I would say, I went through my apprenticeship as a graphic designer, and then desktop publishing came out, and I used to say, now everyone thinks they're a graphic designer because they've got the ability to use a machine that generates desktop publishing.
It doesn't
for anyone old enough. But I used to always think, but everyone can still sit at that machine and create a leaflet or a brochure, but it doesn't quantify the look or feel or the quality of that brochure because they don't have that graphic design background. So I still think that applies here and now, that we can use the tools, but the tools, obviously you can automate those tools to actually do the task for you, but they need to understand what the task is. So
but then that last point, and I think that's a really valuable point that you've just made, because there will be scenarios where a solo entrepreneur or a small company doesn't have the budget to then go hire an agency. They can just get themselves a subscription and make some content, push it out on social media, because it's good enough. It's good enough. And there'll be scenarios where...
Never good enough.
No, I get that. As a graphic designer, as a creative, you always want to take it to 100%. But there will be so many companies and industries that will take it to 70% because it's good enough to ship it. But it's the companies that want to be different, that want to stand out, that want to own and retain that world-leading market position. They need the best. They need world-class.
And
that's the difference between having good creative and just creative. Anyone can create creative, but it's good world-class creative. That's where we sit.
Yeah. And I think that's important to finish up on, is that everything is changing, as we see all the time. This is the worst it'll ever be, like AI and technology and innovation, and you need to get on board with it. So to wrap up, like, the agencies that won't be here in 3 to 5 years are the ones who are holding on to the current model and still trying to work out, what do we do with this AI? Because it's just getting faster. Like, when we we talked about this, I remember last year going, you might have 6 months, a year to kind of adopt. Now I'm like, we're having weekly meetings now in our company about AI, weekly meetings, because of the speed of change and how we integrate the latest tool into our system. So I think that's the companies, agencies, or any business that will die, who hold on to their old model, who just hold on and think it'll be fine, it'll be fine.
And there'll also be agencies that will unfortunately have to close up their doors. But equally, for everyone that closes, there will be 10 new ones that will pop up that are AI first.
Yeah.
So it just transitions. It never dies. The industry won't die. It just transitions much, much faster with younger, smarter brains who really understand the capabilities of what AI can do.
Okay. Right, well, thanks for joining us on episode 175, all about the creative industries and the survival of the creative industries and what will change in the next 3 to 5 years. So thank you.
Thank you. Great questions, Kev.